Greetings to everyone. In this video, we are going to learn Unit 16, John Millington Synge, and his work, The Playboy of the Western World. About the author, he was an English engineer who became an academic in the USA. He was a licensed attorney in England before he began his engineering career. He served as a professor of mechanics at the Royal Institution from 1817 to 1829. He was appointed as a professor of engineering and the application of mechanical philosophy to the arts at the New London University. As such, he was the first professor of engineering in England. He then worked as an engineer with the Anglo-Mexican Mining Association in 1829. He was one of the most famous Irish playwright and one of the founders of Ireland Abbey Theatre. Edmund John Millington Synge was born April 10, 1871 in rural Rathfarnham outside Dublin, Ireland. He was the youngest of five children and never knew his father John Hatch, a barrister who died of smallpox when Synge was 1 year old. Hatch's death left mother Kathleen to raise the family, which she did following the example of her own strict and insular Irish Protestant upbringing. He attended private school for 4 years. He was a shy boy, often in ill health. His sick days interfered with his school days, so his mother hired her own tutor for him. Without the company of other boys, he roamed the surrounding countryside and became an avid naturalist. At the age of 16, he snuck Darwin's Origin of Species into his bedroom and lost his Christian faith upon reading of evolution. Since felt the loss of faith as a shameful betrayal of his mother. He did share a love of music with his mother, however, both she and her son Samuel played the piano and the concertino, inspired by their example since began violin lessons, discovering a natural ability and an excellent ear. In 1896, Sis moved to Paris to study languages. While there, he met fellow Irishman and poet William Butler Yeats. His relationship with Yeats would prove to be one of the most influential of his life. Yeats saw in Sis a kind-read, imaginative spirit, someone passionate not merely about literature but especially about Irish literature. Yeats and Sis met regularly with Monaghan and the instantly Irish revolutionary figure and with Lady Augusta Gregory, Yeats' Lady Grigari, and Sis would later form the Abbey Theatre in Dublin. Yeats encouraged Sis to travel to the Aran Islands and in order to learn the Gaelic language and acquaint himself with Irish folk. Prior to taking the trip, Sin was diagnosed with a Hodgkin disease and underwent an operation to remove a neck tumor. Sickly but inspired, Sin then took the trip and gathered the material for majority of his canon. The terrain, the sea, and the area's history, the village stories, and most of all, the village's languages, whether Gaelic or their own stand of English. He had written many works, and the abbey produced all the Sin's plays in the shadow of the glen, Riders to the Sea, The Will of the Saints, and The Playboy of the Western World. None of these plays received particularly good reviews, and The Playboy of the Western World was largely reviled, sparking riots and arrests during its 1 week run. His plays with their colorful profane imaginary and their violent subject matter offended the sensibilities of Protestants elite and the Catholic nationalists alike. During this period, since confronted the Abbey lead actress Molly Allgood, who starred as Pigeon Mike in the Playboy. The two were engaged, but Sun's health took a fatal turn in 1908. He underwent another operation to remove a tumor, but died on March 1909 in Dublin at the age of 37. He saw the publication of Sin's collected works, featuring both his produced plays and unfinished Diary of Sorrows. In the play, Act 1, the entire play is set in the public house or pub house on the wild coast of Maya, outside a village in northwestern Ireland. Pigeon Mike, daughter of the alley house owner, sits alone in the pub, writing a letter to order supplies for her upcoming wedding to Shankar. Her father, Michael James, has left her for the evening. While he attends a wake, Shannon enters, remarking upon the frightening darkness outside. Pigeon asks him to stay with her, since the night makes her nervous as well. Sean refuses. claiming it would be improper for him to be alone with her until they are wed. Michael James enters along with his friend, Billy and Jimmy. They are drunk and have not yet left for the week. Michael James demands Sean stay with Basil, but Sean refuses, fearing the disapproval of the parish priest. Kirsty Mahan, frightened and dirty, enters the pub. A shy young man, he simply wishes to warm himself by the fire, but soon enough reveals that he is on the run from the police. He tries to avoid talking about, but the men pester him until he admits that he killed his father. The group is greatly impressed by the news and to meet a man who could kill his own father. Michael James offered him a job on the spot, noticing that Christie could keep PJ company this evening. Billy and Jimmy then leave for the wake, and the very intrigued Pigeon chases Sean away. Pigeon admired Christie, complimenting on him on his physique, his face, his speech, and his courage. Christie spills up unfamiliar pride. Widow Queen appears, having heard about Christie from Sean. The widow tries to seduce him, but Pigeon insults and sends her out. As she leaves, however, the widow refers to Pigeon, imprinting new petals with the Sean. This news devastated Christie since he has fallen for her. She assured him she would never marry a coward like Sean, and then he heads up to bed. Before he falls asleep, Christie muses to himself that he would have killed his father much sooner if he had known it would bring him such respect and fortune. Christie Mahan, frightened and dirty, enters the pub. A shy young man, he simply wishes to warm himself by the fire, but soon enough reveals that he is on the run from the police. He tries to avoid talking about it, but the men pester him until he admits that he killed his father. The group is greatly impressed by the news to meet a man he could kill his own father. Michael James offered him a job on the spot. Act 2. Three village girls arrive the next morning to see the man they have heard gossip about. They giggle and flirt with him until the widow queen arrives, announcing that she has registered Christie for a sport competition being held later on beach. The girls joke that the widow and Christie would make a fine match. As they eat breakfast, Christie tells more about the murder, about how he rebelled when his father promised him to a widow whom he did not want to marry. When his father lifted his teeth as the argument grew vicious, Christie struck back with a spade, hitting the old man on the head and killing him. Pagan enters and chases the woman out. Jealous, she accuses Christie of flittering, which he denies. The two exchange kind and tender words. They are falling in love. Sean and the widow Queen re-enters and alert Pigeon that her sheep were wandered off. Pigeon rushes out, leaving them alone. Christie agree and leaves the room to change. Once Christie is gone, Sean promises to give the widow animals and wealth if she can find a way to interfere with the Christie and Pigeon's affair. The widow strikes a deal with Sean, promising to lure Christie into marrying her, not Pigeon, content Sean leaves. Christie stout back in wearing Sean's clothes, but stagger back when he sees the spirit of his murdered dad outside the window. He hides just an old muffin. His father enters. Old muffin, a bandage around his bended head, describes Christie and then asks whether the widow has been something matching that description. The widow sends Mahans up to the dock, claiming she saw the boy waiting to board a steamer. Mahan exit. Christie panic over his father's resurrection, knowing that Pigeon loves him for his mother's heroism. He worries she will leave him. He begs the widow to help him, which she agrees to in the exchange for privileges once he becomes master of the pub. The girls who visited earlier arrive to lead Christie down to the beach for the sports competition alone. The widow admits that Christie will eventually turn to her own. Once the truth comes out, the pigeon drops in. Jimmy and Billy enter the empty pub, discussing how Christie has dominated the competition. They also admitted that the constant boasting about his patricide annoys them. Old McHenry enters the pub, showing the men his wound. He asks again after his son. When the cheering from the beach reaches the pub, Mahan looks up the widow to see the competition champion, Christie. The widow convinces him that he is seeing things because of his head injury, and he anxiously admit himself into an insane asylum. Jimmy and Billy leave with him. Christy and Pigeon enter with the crowd, who celebrate Christy and they leave to watch the final competition on the beach. Alone now with Pigeon, Christy proposes marriage and she accepts. Michael James, still drunk from the wake, enters with Sean. Now perturbed about Christie's influence on his daughter, Michael insists she will marry Sean. Paige defies her father and announces her intention to marry Christie, and Michael encourages Sean to fight Christie for her. When Sean cowardly refuses, Michael decided to bless Christie and Paige's match. Outside, a cries go up, and old Mohan bursts into the pub, rushing to the Christie and knocking him down. When the older man reveals the truth, Pigeon repudiates Christie. He then begs mercy from her and the crowd, but they will not grant it. Pigeon urges Mahan to take his son away, but Christie resists Mahan. The crowd eggs on the fight between father and son until Christie turns on him with a spade. He then chases his father from the pub, the spade in the high. Everyone rushes to the watch off stage. There is a loud cry and then silence. Christie stumbles back in dash. Widow Queen follows, urging Christie to run, since the crowd had turned against him. But Christie believes that Pigeon will take him back now that he has actually killed his father. He is wrong. From the doorway, Mike, Philly, and Pigeon throw a loop of rope around Christie, confining his arms to the torso. Christie asks Pigeon whether she will take him back, but she asserts there is a difference between a gallows story and a dirty deed. Writhing on the floor, Christie threatens to kill them and bites Sean in the leg. Pigeon burns Christie with a hot poker. Christie conjures the welcome he shall receive from the Satan once he has been hanged. But Mahan crawls back in, demanding to know why his son is born. He releases the Christie, who then asks whether the man has returned to be killed a third time. Old Mahan tells the group that he and the Christie will talk of the County Maya villainy for years to come. Christie will not leave peacefully with Mahan, whom he pushes roughly, declaring that his departure is that of a gallant captain with his Ethan's name. Old Mahan is amazed and delighted by this change in his son. They then leave together. Sean approaches Beijing to remind her of their wedding engagement. She boxes Sean's ear and sends them out. Crying wildly, she laments that she has lost the only playboy of the Western world. In the short preface to his play, Sinch emphasizes a link between the imagination of Irish country people and the speech itself, which is rich and living. He credits the Irish people for having such a fiery, magnificent language and further credits himself for having both the presence of mind and the poetic vision to recognize those virtues. Thank you.